Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host beside me, Anthony Rivardo. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at an interesting draft scenario. Of course, everybody loves the draft scenarios, but this one is especially likable because of the 2023 first round pick we add in exchange for, another first round pick that from Seattle. And I think this is a really intriguing scenario where there's a couple teams that are looking for quarterbacks, and Seattle being one of them. I wanted to center a deal around them. And I like what the Giants did last year in terms of focusing on a team and trading with a team that they thought wouldn't be that good. And they ended up being right. The Chicago Bears kind of sucked. And we got the 7th overall pick because of it. Seattle next year, obviously, Russell Wilson's gone. They're talking about maybe trading Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf. They could be in shambles once again. So the Giants may be able to capitalize on that scenario and get themselves a little bit more leverage in terms of maybe looking to the future for a new quarterback if Daniel Jones doesn't pan out. All about insurance, and the Giants still retain 2 first-round picks in this scenario, top 10 picks in that matter, which is really, really enticing for me. But Anthony, before we dive into this interesting scenario, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. I love this scenario. I think trading back is perfect for the Giants. Last year they traded down from 11 to 20. They got an additional first round pick in this year's draft. And I think fans should be able to realize now just how valuable that was, how much value they extracted from that trade down. Now that we're sitting here with the 5th and the 7th overall picks, 2 top 10 picks that the Giants possess, that's rare. When was the last time that happened to the Giants? And that doesn't happen to many teams very often, to hold 2 top 10 picks. And the Giants are now in a position to really turn their franchise around. They could trade one of these picks, trade down, and get a whole bunch of more value out of it, which just makes the trade from last year even better. Or they can get 2 premier prospects in the top 10, like some of the prospects we're going to discuss, maybe a Kayvon Thibodeau, maybe a Charles Cross, or even an Evan Neal, whoever. They have those 2 top 10 picks, and it just gives them so much flexibility and so much value. And anytime you can trade down and get a future first round pick, you have to consider it, because it can just provide so much flexibility and so much value to your team, especially when you're talking about going through the draft capital and extracting as much value as possible from every prospect and every single pick. So I really like this scenario, and I'm excited to dive into it.
Yeah, and a lot of the debate lately has been around, do the Giants try to add capital for this year? Because we know Joe Shane, new management, trying to build a foundation, right? Trying to build a foundation, get this team in the right place, and move forward with the hopes of establishing, multiple units so they can maybe inject a young quarterback into the mix or roll with Daniel Jones and build a team around him. There's many debates to be had, but there is an argument to be made that building for the future includes insurance for Daniel Jones. Now, as I've been saying in articles and, via the podcast, Daniel Jones is once again in a position to lose. He's in a position to fail. And it's hard to justify otherwise, because a new offensive line, his 3rd offensive coordinator, his 3rd head coach, like how many negative factors can you put against the guy before we realize the probability of him succeeding and him having a dominant 2022 season where he's like, all right, he's so good, we got to keep him. It's so unlikely because he doesn't have a good offensive line. His weapons are injury prone. He has a new scheme, new verbiage. The guy is really being stacked against him. And I think personally, and Anthony, I think you agreed with me a couple episodes ago, he could be another Ryan Tannehill situation where he goes to another team, hits the restart button, signs an extension over 2 or 3 years deal on minimal money, or just a good contract for him, and he ends up being a good quarterback somewhere else. But I think it's time with the Giants. It's running out, and the cards are stacked against him. So with that being the case, logically, you look to plan ahead. Now, John Mara said yesterday that he still has a ton of faith. The offense has not been good to build around him. He gave him a lot of outs, excuses. But Daniel Jones has his fair share of cons too, right? From the turnovers, the one reads, the staring at receivers. He also has a lot of pros, mobility. He has good arm talent. He is a smart dude. His work ethic is impeccable. There are positives to Daniel Jones' game that make you think he could be a franchise quarterback. We just haven't seen that yet. Even his rookie season wasn't enough to say, he's going to be great. He could be good, but maybe he's not going to be great. With that being the case, the Giants have to think about the future. And with this scenario, they are able to walk away with the 2023 first round pick and prepare for the inevitable, situation where the Giants are once again looking to replace their quarterback. So in this scenario, the Giants trade the 5th overall pick and their 4th round pick, 112th overall, to the Seattle Seahawks, who are in dire need of a quarterback after acquiring Drew Lock. I mean, Drew Lock is not going to be their starter long term. They have to know that. He is legitimately a bridge quarterback. That's the way I see Drew Lock in terms of what he's going to do for Seattle. He's a bridge quarterback for a rookie. And that rookie is probably going to have to be taken before the ninth overall pick where the Seattle Seahawks stand. So they get the ninth pick, the Giants. They give up the fifth, 112th, and they get a 2023 first rounder. Now, Seattle has been known to trade back in recent drafts and acquire more talent, rather more draft capital and just take more swings of the bat. But because Russell Wilson's gone now and their team hasn't really succeeded using that strategy, I think they look to the polar opposite and they look to trade up and get the guy that they're looking for. And I personally think that's going to be Malik Willis. The Giants with the fifth overall pick have an opportunity of leverage if the Jets stay put, Houston stays put. We'll see kind of what happens in front of the Giants. But if Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett are there at 5, Seattle may say we have those guys similarly graded. We want to jump up and take whatever one's available at 5, where the Giants are. It's not that too much of a big jump, and we get a fourth round pick back in return. I think this is a situation where the Giants walk away and they're like, we get the seventh and ninth overall picks, and if there's an early run on quarterbacks, those top prospects are gonna fall. And we'll tell you who I have, and Anthony and I have mocked to the Giants at 7 and 9, which is a tremendous haul. You walk away with a 2023 first round pick and 2 instant impact players on both sides of the trenches. That's the way I tried to build this mock draft. I think it would be a dream come true. But Anthony, when you're thinking about this mock scenario, just in terms of the capital swapped, Giants getting the 2023 first and the ninth overall pick, and them giving up the fifth and 112th. Do you think that's a pretty fair or a good deal for the Giants?
Yeah, I definitely think it's fair. I mean, it might knock them out of the range of getting some of those big name stars in the draft that Giants fans really want. Like Evan Neal, not realistic at 9 overall, and not even at 7 if they're staying there. Also, probably not realistic that they get Ike Mekwonu and Kayvon Thibodeau. It's a stretch that he's going to be able to fall all the way to 7 or 9. There's a chance that he does, but there's a really good chance that he falls into the laps of someone at 6 or 7, or the Giants at 7, but 6, or if they don't take him at 7, maybe at 8, someone would take him, and teams might trade up to get him because Kayvon Thibodeau, yeah, maybe he's polarizing to some, but he's really electric to others, and I could see a team trading up to secure their edge rusher of the future. So, I mean, trading down is always going to knock you out of the landing spots of some of the best prospects, but how big of a difference is it from number 5 to number 9 if you're taking a look at it that way? I mean, you can still land an instant impact edge rusher at number 9. A lot of people look at Jermaine Johnson out of FSU as an edge rusher who will have an impact day one as a starter because he's such a good run defender already, and you can develop his pass rushing skills. So there's an idea right there. Or if they whiff out on the offensive tackles at 7, Trevor Penning is a guy that has a lot of developmental qualities that they can go with at 9, or they could take a look at maybe trading down once again and then falling back into the middle of the rounds and going with Tyler Linderbaum as their trench guy on offense in the first round of the draft. So there's a lot of options for them that will be afforded to them at 7, at 9. I really love this idea because when we're taking a look at the future of the New York Giants, there is a lot of uncertainty at quarterback. Yes, Daniel Jones is the clear-cut starter according to the reports. He's going to be the starter in year 1, but year 2 of the Brian Dable regime, we're not guaranteeing that Daniel Jones is still going to be here, right? Because he has to ball out this year in order to have that position next year. Tyrod Taylor is pretty much guaranteed to be here. And Tyrod Taylor is a perfect bridge quarterback. He just was a bridge over with the Chargers. He just was a bridge over with the Texans. And he might just be the bridge with the New York Giants going into 2023, especially if they have their first round pick and an additional team's other first round pick. And when you take a look at the Seahawks, the state of their roster, they just kind of gutted it, got rid of a lot of things. They're making a lot of big changes. Pete Carroll usually keeps them competitive, but last year he struggled to do that as well. Now that they don't have Russell Wilson, trading up, if they are trading up, in fact, for a rookie quarterback, that usually means they're going to have a slow start to the rookie quarterback's career. They're going to have a bad first season. Giants could wind up, just like the Bears, who traded up to get Justin Fields, giving them a first-round pick. Giants could wind up with another first-round pick, or a top 10 pick, rather, in this scenario. So if the Giants can walk away with a first-round pick in 2020-23, you have to really consider it because it just brings you so much flexibility and it gives you so much value. The Giants can go into the 2023 draft with taking a quarterback in mind. If Daniel Jones doesn't succeed this year, you go into 2023, you take a look at some of the top prospects that are available, and you go after your quarterback next year. Take a big swing with the bat with 2 first-round picks. Gives you all the capital to move up, maybe even secure the first overall pick in the draft if you feel that convicted on the quarterback prospect. So I really like this scenario. I think the draft capital that the Giants received in this scenario is perfect. If we are trading down in this year's draft, I desperately want to get a 2023 first-round pick just because we all know that quarterback class is expected to be really, really strong, and the Giants have a very likely need at quarterback in 2023.
Yeah, I think I 100% agree, mainly because the Giants already have 10 picks this year, right? If they were to do this deal, they would have 9. You can build out the foundation of many different positions by doing this, right? You can get linebackers, you can get offensive linemen, you can get pass rushers, cornerbacks, the defense. You can do so many different things. And I think that really attests to the true rebuild strategy and what the Giants need to do, right? If you build out the team with youth and then you inject the young quarterback, the whole team can progress together on rookie contracts, team controlled rookie contracts. And that's what we really want to do. By the time Aziz Ojulari and, those guys are finally getting to the pinnacle and of their careers and looking to hit free agency, our team is good. We have the money to re-sign them because we've built successfully through the draft. Now, this entire rebuild is predicated on the fact the Giants knock this draft out of the park. If they have another poor draft, we're going to be back to square one. That's unfortunately the reality. They need to hit this draft out of the park for them to get to where they need to be and where we want to be. But I do believe that having 2 first round picks next year, whether it's top 15, top 10, is enough to move up and get your quarterback of choice. And the Giants, of course, have their assured default amount of picks. They can always trade back in the mid rounds here and add a couple more picks for next year. There's some players they could try and trade. Of course, James Bradbury's on the docket. Maybe Saquon Barkley is traded at the deadline. There's a myriad of different things the Giants can do. But with this scenario, the Giants do have the 7th overall pick. I think it's actually quite realistic to think that the Giants will have an opportunity to take Kayvon Thibodeau or Sauce Gardner, one of those two guys. I think the Panthers are going to get a quarterback because at this point they're rolling with Sam Darnold. I can promise you that's not their their version of a starting quarterback. They may want to use him as a bridge at this point. So, I think they're in for a quarterback. I think that Seattle's in for a quarterback. I think the Jets are going off. I think the Jets actually have a good offensive line. The Jets may go with a pass rusher, which could be Thibodeau. But I don't think that Saleh uses a outside linebacker like Thibodeau. He kind of uses a 4-3 at the defensive ends. So it'd be interesting to see. Maybe I heard George Karlaftis is a guy that they might like, but he might be a little bit early to go there. Maybe Trayvon Walker would be a great fit with the Jets. Maybe Jermaine Johnson would be a great fit with the Jets. He can play defensive end and outside linebacker as well. So those are two guys that pique my interest when it comes to the Jets. What else? Maybe Houston. I think that they're could be in the market for a quarterback. They need offensive line help, so I think they may go with Evan Neal or whatever it might be. Of course, you got Detroit. They may go with a quarterback. There's so many different. There's going to be quarterbacks and offensive linemen kind of going off the board early, which could lead to the Giants having a shot at Kayvon Thibodeau or Sauce Gardner. I think one of those two guys will be there, or even Kyle Hamilton for that matter. Any three of those guys, I'd be more than happy with. 9th overall, like you said, Trevor Penning. The guy scored unbelievable numbers with his RAS, his relative athletic score. He was one of the most athletic tackles, offensive linemen in the draft class. So, if you're going to go that route, you're getting an absolute monster athlete who's a dominant run blocker day one. He needs a lot of help in pass protection. Personally, I think his hands are very inconsistent. His feet get the chemistry. There's no synergy there. But that takes reps, needs time. He's a big guy. He can be a lockdown guy in the future if you do the right development with him. But in this specific mock draft, I have the Giants going Charles Cross. I think he drops a little bit and he gets to 9. Bobby Johnson worked with him at his pro day at right tackle. He looked really, really good. People had a lot of great things to say about him. So Anthony, overall, how would you grade this out of A plus to F? Obviously, you get Kayvon Thibodeau, Charles Cross, 9th overall pick, and 2023 first round pick. I think that would be like legitimately the best case scenario you could ever imagine.
Yeah, it sounds too good to be true. So I'm going to say I don't think it's a realistic one. I think probably the players selected. I think the draft capital that you put in this mock trade is realistic, but having both of those players fall into the laps of the Giants just does not sound totally realistic. So this would be an A plus for sure. This scenario is an A plus, but more realistically, I mean, you could see Kayvon Thibodeau fall into 7. I see where you're coming from. I could see that happening. If we're saying there's a really good chance he's there at 5, I don't see why he wouldn't be there at 7. At number 6, I don't expect the Carolina Panthers to go with an edge rusher, so I feel like they're going with an offensive lineman. But that's why I'm saying Charles Cross might not be on the board. I think there's a really good chance that Charles Cross goes at number 6 and he doesn't make his way all the way to 9. I think also at number 8, the Atlanta Falcons could potentially be taking that Sauce Gardner pick or potentially even taking an offensive lineman. So I think at least one of those guys that you mentioned will be available for the Giants to select. They can land one of those guys for sure, whether it be Kayvon Thibodeau or Charles Cross. But I don't know how realistic it is to get both of them. If they did, A plus dream scenario. This is all that I want and then some, especially considering the additional first round pick next year. So yeah, A plus. Love this trade scenario. Not sure how realistic it is, but I'm sure that if we conjured up a couple different selections within this trade package, we could probably find one that's a more realistic scenario, and it would still grade out in a very high grading scale because again, you're getting that first round pick next year, which adds tremendous value, but you're still taking 2 top 10 selections in this year's draft. So you're going to get premium talent. Plus, the future is way too bright. It's super, super bright when you have that additional first round pick and a quarterback rich draft class. Because even we'll go from the other angle, right? What if Daniel Jones does dominate, throws 50 touchdown passes this year? Him and Brian Dable were the perfect marriage. Okay, well, now you can trade that additional first round pick and get even more value. You can trade down. You don't have to go for a quarterback. So the pick becomes even more valuable for you because you're not using it to trade up. You're using it to take the best player available and build out the rest of the roster around DJ, or you're using it to trade down. So again, huge advocate for trading down in the first round if you're getting a future first round pick. I think it's super important, especially the Giants in this rebuild. They are rebuilding. So I really love this scenario, and I think it's a great one that you conjured up, Alex.
Why, thank you, good sir. I would love to hear what everybody thinks below on the YouTube comments. Do you think this makes sense? Do you think it's a perfect draft? Do you think that you change anything about it? Like Anthony said, could not be realistic, but I think there's a chance that this actually could happen. I think there's going to be teams looking for a quarterback, and I think that if there is, and the Giants are able to capitalize on that, this draft seems like it could be. I mean, give or take a couple guys, I'd be happy with Sauce Gardner and Trevor Penning at 9. I'd be happy with Tyler Linderbaum. There's a couple different combinations. Jermaine Johnson. There's a couple different guys I'd be totally fine with, but I think overall the Giants would be in a tremendously advantageous position to execute the trade back just alone, let alone the draft picks. So I'm excited to hear what you guys have to think. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants episode.